How you guys doing? All right, so our group was the South Coast. I'm Aaron.
Hi,
I'm Alicia.
I'm Carissa.
Trent.
And I'm Brianna.
Unlike the previous
Sorry about
groups,
that.
we
A little
decided to include the executive summary that was in the book. So we're going to make our presentation and business case a little easier to understand. We're going to preface it with the executive summary. So our organization worked with the South Coast Artist Profile Group, which is headed by Ron Fortier. And our goal was to provide our client with a franchisable website that includes a working database, because previously, this is a legacy project, so previously the group before us was working with him, and their database was an SQL, an Access database, and it wasn't really using all the file types that they had, and having a bunch of issues with it. So that's where we took it, and now we're moving forward from there. And our strategy was to develop multiple alternative options using a application layer HTML, which is like Drupal and WordPress. And our MOVs are going to be to establish a working database as the focus, and to have at least 10 artists create a profile on the website.
So how does what you're doing fit into this?
The first alternative was the Drupal website and content management, which is hosted with Amazon Web Services, and that runs Elastic Beanstalk on the application layer, and the Amazon Relational Database with Maria Database. They had a bunch of options, different databases you could choose from with Amazon Web Services. That was one option, and then the other option was the WordPress website in conjunction with the Google Cloud platform that they offer, which uses MySQL for the database. And for our project, we're going to assume that Ron will be taking over after we make our alternatives to him, and he's going to have his own hosting services and application support provided by the Spectrum Marketing Group that he works for. So they're going to take it after we do what we can, and hopefully make a working database. We're going to move on to introduction by Alicia.
Thank you, Aaron. All right, so what exactly is South Coast Artist Profiles? Well, as Aaron briefly touched upon it, our visionary or our project sponsor is Ron Fortier, and he's just this bubbly, enthusiastic guy who noticed a problem. And what exactly was that problem? He noticed that there was currently a lack of documented work for artists who are in the South Coast area, especially around New Bedford, and even more so in the Portuguese culture. So Ron wanted to create a platform where artists could showcase their work, and also relatives of deceased artists can have a site where they can go and show the work that their deceased relatives once did. Right. So the current situation, so there's currently not a website in place. And as Aaron mentioned, it's a legacy project. So there's been other groups who worked on it in this class, and it just hasn't really gone to the point where Ron wants it to be. So we realized that it's currently in a just do project phase. So Ron has a lot of documentation, a lot of things to work for. The next steps is really just to do it and get our client what he's looking for. And so SCAP needs a website for their artist that has a functioning database. So that's one of the main pieces there. Right, so the opportunity for our client, we want to create this website for him, as I mentioned. And it needs to have a Facebook, Ancestry.com, and LinkedIn features. And what we mean by that is, so our client wants our website to have artist profiles. So an artist or a deceased artist's relatives can go onto our website and create a profile for them, similar to Facebook. This profile will be how people can interact with them and view their artwork that they once created. This website must be user-friendly, so anyone should be able to, go online and access it, be able to look for artists, or just browse the website. All right, going back to that. The Ancestry.com link of it, Ron really wants there to be linkages. So he wanted the system to recognize, well, this artist went to UMass Dartmouth, here are other artists who also went to UMass Dartmouth or who had this professor or individuals who are working in this genre. He really wants it to have a flow so people can find artists they are interested in from that. And LinkedIn features, he wants the artists who are currently still living to be able to network and market. So to reach out to people like booking agents, to reach out to individuals who might want to buy their art. And this can be the case for those who are deceased as well. Their relatives can try to sell their work on this site as well. There also must be an option for paid levels for more access. So if someone wants to do more than just the common user just logging in, we need to offer the next tier up, so that paid access as well. And our MOV for the website is at least 10 new artist profiles by time we graduate. So, then this is going to happen through Ron's word of mouth and some artists he already have, and also through us marketing for this new site, going out, finding artists, and making profiles for them. Right. So perhaps the biggest piece of this project is the database opportunity. So the database must have the ability to create data reports. So Ron is really big on this. He doesn't just want to collect information and have it just sit there. He wants to make it more meaningful. What can we pull from that? And so some things he'll like to figure out, the demographics, like where are people living? Where have they traveled? Where has this artwork reached? The database also needs to have enough space to house all this information we'll be collecting. So, and just the basic stuff. So who are the artists, their names, their backgrounds, what genre. It needs to hold their actual artwork if they want to share samples of that. Okay, let's see. And so the MOV for this would obviously be having a functioning and efficient database. And we wanted to be more updated. So in the past, Aaron mentioned they'd had access, but it was a little tricky. And for instance, if a user wanted to go in and create a profile, they would have to finish it all in one setting. They couldn't leave and come back, or the information would be erased. So we really need to find a database that can handle complex tasks such as that.
Krista, to go through one
I'm
of
gonna
our
pass it on to
alternatives.
Thank you, Alicia. On that positive note, our first alternative that we came up with is Drupal. It's actually a Drupal content management system with MariaDB on the back end, and it's run solely on Amazon Web Service solution.
Is this what you use in 481? Yeah.
We use Drupal in 481, but not Amazon Web Services. We ran it on an Apache server. Drupal and MariaDB are both open source. They're free, and they fall under the general public license for software usage. So very little overhead involved in actually using this software. We'll get to pricing in a little bit, but Amazon Web Services does come with its premiums. They both have responsive design that's ready for configuration out of the box, meaning there's a kind of a standard setup process that gives you a template site and then kind of allows you to go from there. They are secure and dependable. They have pretty good application support. They also have large communities of users and developers that develop plugins and fix defects in the software for the companies themselves. Pretty regular updates between the two. And that touched on my next one. So some of the cons that we kind of ran into in respect to this project is Drupal does actually have a steep learning curve for new developers. We didn't all feel that here because most of us took a class with it, but it's not a standard in the industry. So the way that it works and the way that you develop to it is unique. They have their own unique API. So it could pose a challenge for Ron, who is ultimately between Capstone Projects going to be the end user for making edits to this site and the database. It also would be the next Capstone group who we would be handing off to potentially, and we want to make sure that we're using software that they're able to work with. Another kind of con that Drupal faces is major updates can require significant technical resources. Drupal updates can break certain plugins that you've downloaded, certain modules that you've used. If the developers of the module have decided to not, actually change their module to work with Drupal 8, you can actually break parts of your site. From my research on it, it's a pain point for a lot of people using Drupal. So that would be a concern for Ron as well, because again, he doesn't really have the technical staff on hand. He's going to be doing a lot of this himself or leaving it up to students here at the university. MariaDB, the biggest downfall there is it's nearly proprietary. It is really difficult to migrate away from MariaDB. You can migrate into MariaDB with anything that supports MySQL, but you can't get away. So you're pretty much stuck using MariaDB for the foreseeable future, unless you have a large technical team in place to help you get out. MariaDB is actually developed by some of the original developers for MySQL, and they do not all the MySQL updates that are coming out now will not be implemented in the current version of MariaDB. They've branched off, so they're now divergent pieces of software. So any updates that one group makes, the other will not benefit from, and vice versa, which can cause some issues when it comes to compatibility with other types of databases out there. That being said, Drupal is a really powerful content management software. It can support a lot of the features that Ron is looking for, up to and including the capturing of front-end data for user profiles and for adding entries to this database where we would then have this social network of different artist contributions. There are a lot of really powerful websites that run on Drupal. The US government uses Drupal. Actually, the government in France uses Drupal as well. Harvard School of Design uses Drupal. There were quite a few. Airbnb actually writes to Drupal's API. So there's some impressive list of users for Drupal. So now I'm going to actually hand it off to Trent so that he can tell you about our second alternative.
Thank you, Carissa. Hello, I'm here to talk about WordPress. WordPress is an open source project created back in 2003. At first, it was just a simple blogging system built on PHP and MySQL. But over the years, it's evolved into a fully content management system. And today, it's actually the biggest self-hosted blog tool in the world. And you can make, and it goes from like a simple, like a grandma's recipe website to a Fortune 500 company such as like Amazon, or I believe Dunkin' Donuts is actually on WordPress too, I believe. And well, one of the things for WordPress is that it connects to its database and queries easily. This allows users to generate a URL and modify the way it looks by using permalinks. And it also has an intuitive interface, and this intuitive interface is really user-friendly, and it reduces time to format the site, and at the same time it eliminates like training. Like you don't need an IT-based staff to use WordPress. You know, a regular person, a regular employee can learn it. It's basically on the go. And another helpful thing is that it's browser-based interface. As Aaron said before, it's a Google Cloud platform. So basically, all you need to do is have a computer on the internet, and you'll be able to manage the site from, if you're in New York and your partner can be in California, it doesn't matter, as long as you guys are on the internet and you guys can easily manage it, no problem. And another thing is no HTML or FTP software required. This actually doesn't require additional HTML, like such as like a Dreamweaver. This can reduce the overall cost between maintenance and development and this everyday use can like the back end will be hassle free, and the WordPress code is clean and simple, and this leads to increased search engine optimization. Search engine optimization is basically make the site more popular. Like say if you want an art repository, what we're doing, it will pop up on high search engines like Google or Yahoo or Bing. You know, it's very helpful, and it also helps on social media. So you can have higher social media visibilities. So other kids like kids in CVPA, they can tweet it out and then it will be on Twitter and stuff. And a lot of people would be interested in and have their stuff out there. And your WordPress has thousands of plugins, widgets, and themes, and most of them are free or recently priced. One free one would be advanced custom fields, which is very helpful in developing a site. And WordPress can scale up to thousands of pages, and it will work around your budget and your resource planning, and it will be it's very helpful. And cons, because it's an open source network, it has a lot of security holes, and it makes it easier. It makes it easier for hackers to get in there. And because of the plugins and the widgets and the themes, a lot of downloaded stuff, a lot of malware can show up, but they really do a good job of patching it up. And flexibility can be costly. WordPress it was really designed for small content, but having plugins and Google Cloud Premium prices, it can be really costly, and actually Carissa will explain that for the cost. Thank you.
Thank you.
We can either push these guys along, or we can let them relax and go through. So we'd rather present today, or?
We're ready to go now, but there's no need to push them. Yeah, whatever. Where's that place?
Okay. Take a look.
Sorry, we'll speed up. We just did a quick pricing breakdown. So like Aaron mentioned in the beginning of the presentation, we're actually operating under the assumption that we're going to be handing this off. We've spoken to Ron a couple times about hosting, and he has some ideas for getting hosting through his contacts. So ultimately, he may not be using the cloud-based services, but because we're using them for the implementation and the project, and because we find value in them, we actually price them out for him moving forward. So at least he has an idea. So ultimately, Google Cloud Platform is actually a little bit more expensive than Amazon Web Services. We actually priced out the databases with comparable monthly usage and storage. These are the prices at only 150 gigs a month. One database instance and 750 hours of use. That's actually going to be pretty low if the site becomes popular. So these prices will scale. This is where we expect to be starting off to reach our MOVs. But as the site becomes more popular or more successful, he would, Ron and his organization would be responsible for the cost difference because it will scale up from there. So nothing else really of note there. They're basically standard virtual instances. They exist exclusively on the cloud-based services. So there's a virtual machine that's running a web server and the databases. So these costs include all of that, including hosting. So it's actually pretty impressive pricing. Amazon and Google both have free tiers. Meaning, I believe, and we put it in our report, it's up to, Google Cloud is 60 days and 750 hours and up to a $300 bill. Amazon Web Services is 12 months, 750 hours, and a $300 bill for a free trial. So you can actually start building on these sites pretty easily before you even spend any money. So I'm going to hand it off to Brianna for our analysis of our two options.
Has he theoretically thought about possibly spending this much down the road per month?
He said that the web hosting that he would get through Spectrum Marketing is about $30 a month, so we're right on target with that.
Great.
Yeah.
Great, well, thank you. So now I'm just going to explain how they all get their scores. We also decided to weigh them because we do have a lot of factors and not all of them are as important as the others. And so yeah, at the end of it, the MySQL and WordPress using the Google Cloud Platform for our sake ended up winning by about 30. And the factors that we had that were most important to us, I have highlighted in purple here, were the ease of implementation. WordPress was a lot easier, even with a few of us knowing how to use Drupal. It still took a lot longer to get Drupal working on the Amazon Web Services. And also one of the other huge important things were the ease of use for the end users, because like we said, Ron doesn't really know how to like actually, I don't know, he's not as techie as like we might be because we've had these classes on it. So we wanted to make sure that it was something that he was going to be able to use as an admin on the site. And the other important thing was the ease of updates and site maintenance, which actually was very good for both of them, for the WordPress and the MySQL, not just the site side. Yeah, it was just a lot easier because it's not MariaDB, it's from MySQL. It's going to be a lot easier to get updates and maintenance, and you won't have to do it manually and like figure out where things can be updated and stuff like that. On the database side, like I said, the updates and maintenance was scored really well, and the query capabilities, that was huge for Ron because he wants you to be able to use the site and actually be able to search for different types of artists and all those things that Alicia mentioned. So that was huge. That was one of the really most important things that Ron mentioned. And then again, the migration solutions, we wanted to make sure that this was going to be really easy to migrate to the Spectrum Marketing Group, which is the group he works with for hosting, to migrate to them as well as migrate to future capstone projects if this is a legacy project that continues on. And then, so the server, we had lower weights on these scores just because this was for our sake. It wasn't as much for Ron and the South Coast art profiles. So, yep, you can see how they scored, and MySQL and WordPress clearly did a lot better. So our recommendation is, of course, the WordPress and MySQL. Their strengths are that it's simple and it's the simple implementation process. It's really pretty quick. It took like less than an hour, whereas the Drupal took several hours. The intuitive usage for end users, like I said, for Ron to be able to use it really easily, and future groups. It's easy to maintain and update. There's migration potential of the database, and there's strong query capabilities. The only weakness, as Trent mentioned before, is that it's not as strong in site security as Drupal, and this can be addressed by adding additional security features. So does anyone have any questions?
Or GCP over like another, not traditional, but like advertised or hosted service.
Do you want me to answer that?
Yeah, I think you would probably
Sorry,
be
I
good at
have like a
answering that.
really good answer
Yeah.
for that. Sorry. One of the primary reasons was having multiple administrative users making edits to the site without using any type of version control or repository. It's much easier to do with these two standard cloud-based servers.
Okay.
You're trying this with this class, how long?
I know
Pass
better
it,
once or
please.
twice before.
Ron said three.
Three?
I mean, he may remember it differently than you do.
Do you guys know exactly what they were using in past years, or it wasn't working, and like,
The
what was access, right?
the last class used Access. I don't know about the ones before that.
Did he tell you exactly what went wrong, what he didn't like about it, or?
He didn't like the functionality of Access. It was very limited for what he's looking to do, especially on the front end web application.
I think we're